makeup of 2 people. They don't have all the expertise in-house. So as a trust, what we encourage them is, you hire those expertise out. You contract those expertise out. You need a facility to be hired, don't create a capital within yourself. We'll pay for that. Hire that and bring in. You need a regulatory consultant, bring that regulatory consultant. We'll pay for it. You need an IP consultant, bring him. So we try to, encourage them in. Everybody can't have all the expertise in house. So we try to encourage them, and we handhold them, to bring those expertise in house and put a strong proposal ahead.
Yeah.
So that's what we play and try to encourage them, mentor them to put up a strong proposal.
Sure. I believe you've invested in 9 companies in India. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's equity or debt. I don't know how you work. Yeah. But I would like to appreciate, understand the ratio from a stage point of view. How many companies were in the venture stage, and how many were in the mid stage, and how many are mature? So I think that'll be good to.
Yeah. We don't invest in equity capital in India. And what we do is, our model in India is generally revenue sharing model. Firstly, we invest in a ring fence project. If you have a project in mind, come to us and we will evaluate it. It's a ring fence project. So, and what we do is we draw up a revenue sharing model with them. If that investment we make, again on a proportionate basis, makes money, then we share.
But that's when you have a success to a milestone.
Success, yeah.
But then how about risk sharing?
If it is not a successful project, it's gone.
Okay.
Because
you said debt. So how are you going to sort of?
No, we don't recover anything. It's just
so it's like a mezzanine kind of a thing.
Yeah. So if you're not making money, you as a philanthropy, we are supposed, and our mandate says we are supposed to take risks. So we do that. And if you say in India, as of now, as you said, we have 9 projects we have announced. In principle, we have decided to fund around 14 applications. Remaining 5 are subject to contracts. So on these 9 projects, if you see around 3 to 4 are small-sized companies. 2 to 3 are large-sized companies.
Based and then out of those bioincubators?
Bioincubators, yeah, from there. And few of them are institutes and hospitals we have funded.
Yeah.
So, and in the small, again, I come back to the small, they need a lot of hand-holding. And I am mandated, my trust is mandated, and my initiative is mandated to do that hand-holding. We help them to write the grant application. We handhold them to take it to the committee also.
Fantastic. So can we have Rajesh, your comments on this? What is the right time for a company to look for raising equity capital?
If you're getting good money from Wellcome Trust, take it.
So you,
yeah. Sure. I mean, the usual answer is, if you can get the money, take it. That would be my general answer, especially if you're looking to build for growth. But it also depends on the type of company, right? If you have a good lifestyle business and you don't want pesky investors on your board telling you what to do, then don't take the money. So it depends on the company, and some people are, entirely comfortable growing their business without having the overhead of investors, and it is an overhead. So you got to make sure you're ready for that. I think that's a very important thing that entrepreneurs need to ask. Some people are never ready for that. So in general, if you can get the money, take the money, because you don't know when you'll need it.
Yeah, and I think sweet spot for Anand is startups now. Yeah. So could you share your perspective on that?
Yeah, actually, my perspective is slightly different. Basically, you should look for money the moment you have an idea. But what is important is, what kind of money are you looking for? Are you looking for VC money? Are you looking for growth capital? Are you looking for grant money? Because at the end of the day, it all depends on what is the equity stake, or what is it that you're giving to your partner for all the efforts that you're putting in. So I would be a bit careful in accepting money. Today, there's no dearth of capital in the market, especially Asian market and especially India. I would encourage that anyone who's got a startup idea should go and talk to angel investors and have a structure in a way that is a win-win for both the investor as well as the entrepreneur.
Fantastic. Yeah. Sanuj, as you said, you are growth capital, so I think you partially answered your question in the last question itself. Would you like to supplement to that?
I mean, I think the other panelists, hit on the main points about when you raise capital. But the one thing I will add is that I think that the best time to raise capital is also when you as a company have hit a value inflection point in whatever your business line is, because that's when you're going to be able to sustain the highest valuation and negotiating power for yourself. And then obviously, from the standpoint of looking at market conditions, you know, certain market conditions warrant fundraising. I think we're currently in a period here where what I find is there's far more capital chasing the number of interesting ideas that are out there. And so from the standpoint of a promoter, I think this is a very good time to be accessing capital, because I find that my peers are falling over themselves trying to get into good deals, and it's a promoter's market in that sense.
Sure. So Sai, I'm going to come back to you, and it's about, you know, what were the challenges that you faced when you were raising the first series of fund and then subsequent, you know? I'm sure challenges would have multiplied and they were different in nature. So some of those key challenges which were very common in each process, if you could highlight on that, I'm sure it'd be good value add for everybody.
Sure. In terms of challenges, I mean, from our own company, you know, there was, I guess, funding that was approved when Dr. Ella first proposed, you know, made a proposal when he was in the US and when he came back to India in 96, 95 or 96. But the same entity that apparently approved his term sheet when he was in the US, once he landed in India, it was pulled back. Because at least in those days, the concept is that if you come back from the US, you were jobless in the US and you came back. So, so that was the early days, but he was able to get some funding from IDBI in those days, I guess in 96. And then in, so I guess about 97, 98. And then in 2004, we were successfully able to raise funding from IFC, World Bank, and ICICI Ventures.
As you said, successfully. So
yeah.
Success comes after a lot of challenges. So what were those challenges, you know? It's an outcome, but what were those challenges?
The challenges are, in India, when you raise funding, you know, you have expectations of 24 months.
Yeah.
You need to be PAT positive. We had a conversation earlier on today.
Absolutely.
You can't be, it would be an utopian situation if, like what Anand mentioned, you know, you have an idea, file a patent, and somebody's willing to give you 5 crore check, and that never happens. I mean, maybe it's going to happen in India sometime now. I see some very early stage funding made available, but it has not happened thus far. So even if you have to raise funding initially, you need to show your investors a revenue model within 24 or 36 months. I mean, without that, nobody's going to give you money for 5 years and 7 years for product development. And that's the case in India.
Sure.
And now what is readily available when all of us talk about funding and capital and things like that, what is readily available is what we call, or what the investors would call as growth capital, which means the company is already at 20 crores. From 20, they're thinking about going to 250 crores or something like that. They need infrastructure for that. You can't grow sometimes using debt, because debt is expensive, 14, 15, 16% in India.
I like to correct you here.
Yeah.
Long-term debt is cheaper.
Long-term debt is cheaper, yeah, but depending on what other strings come attached to it.
Absolutely.
And a simple, I guess for me, you know, I raise funds not from private equity investors, also from the government and non-profit agencies,
Sure.
Gates Foundation, the Indian government, the European governments. I like to differentiate, at least in my brain, between what I call as capital and what I call as funding. You know, for me, funding is from a non-profit entity. There are strings attached, but it's different, like what Dr. Mukherjee was mentioning. But when I go for raising capital, then it's completely different. It's for profit. It's from an investing private equity group or a venture capital
Sure.
entity for a bank. So these issues are there. And even nowadays, what is very encouraging, I'd like to strongly support what Vishal mentioned. If there is a good idea, there is definitely money available. Whether that is from the government or whether that is from you know, private equity sources. You need to be able to package that idea well. You need to have a decent team that is along with it. You need to tell investors what your plan is, what are you going to develop it, what are the, you know, pitfalls in your own technology, and what are you going to do to make funding, the funding that you're getting, a profitable one. For example, we've gotten money from
I'll have to cut short here.
Sure.
So Atul, your perspective on, you know, what were the challenges that you actually, you know, suffered from when you were raising first round of fund from Kotak, you know? Because the drug discovery, traditional way, you were not doing traditional work, you know? So it must have been a aren't tasked to explain them, you know, this is